The darkness of space stretched endlessly in all directions. Among the cold stars, a massive fleet of alien warships moved like a school of metal fish. The Zeltharian Armada was the largest military force ever assembled in this part of the galaxy. Over 800 ships from 12 different alien species traveled together toward one goal. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory. His 6 arms moved across control panels as his 3 eyes watched the tactical displays. The Zeltharian was tall and thin with purple skin that gleamed under the bridge lights. Around him, other aliens worked at their stations. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few glowed with inner light. "Status report," Vexitar commanded in the common galactic language. Commander Zixra, a small insect-like alien with 4 arms, quickly responded. "All ships are maintaining formation, Admiral. We will reach the Kepler 442 system in 6 hours." The Admiral's main eye focused on the star charts. Kepler 442 was rich with rare minerals that every species needed for their technology. The humans had claimed the system first, but they were new to space travel. They were weak. They had only been flying between stars for less than 200 years. "Have we detected any human presence?" Vextar asked. "Long-range sensors show minimal activity," replied Zixra. "Perhaps a few mining stations, nothing that can threaten us." The other alien commanders on the bridge made sounds of agreement. The Luminari, beings made of pure energy, flickered with confidence. The Cricks, with their hard-shell bodies, clicked their mandibles in satisfaction. Everyone knew this would be easy. The Armada had been planning this mission for months. 12 species had put aside their old conflicts to work together. They all wanted the resources of Kepler 442. The humans were too primitive to stop them. Their ships were small, and their weapons were simple. They had no real military experience against advanced alien technology. "Admiral," called out the sensor operator, a furry creature with large ears. "I'm detecting something strange." Vextar turned all 3 eyes toward the sensor station. "What is it?" "There's a single ship on the edge of the system. Human design, but the energy signature is unusual." The bridge became quiet. A single human ship against 800 alien vessels should have been meaningless. But something felt wrong. "Put it on the main screen," Vexitar ordered. The massive display showed a small human warship floating alone in the darkness. It was maybe 300 meters long, tiny compared to the alien flagship, which was over 2 kilometers. The human ship looked like a metal blade with engines at the back. Nothing special about it. "That's all?" asked Commander Thrall, a large, rock-like alien. "One small ship?" But some of the older commanders on the bridge started to look worried. The Cricks who had fought humans before began clicking nervously. A Luminari flickered with what might have been fear. "Something's wrong," whispered Commander Yex, an old Zeltharian who had been in space longer than most. "I've heard stories about human ships. They don't run when they should, they don't surrender when they're beaten." "Stories," Vextar said with a dismissive wave. "We have 800 ships, they have 1. The human vessel was identified as the UES Defiant. It wasn't moving toward them or away from them. It just sat there in space, waiting. The aliens could detect life signs aboard, but the ship remained silent. No communication attempts, no warnings, no pleas for mercy. "Should we hail them?" asked Zixra. "Why bother?" Vextar replied. "They can see us coming. They know they cannot win. Perhaps they will be smart and run away." But the human ship didn't run. As the Armada got closer, the Defiant just floated there like it was waiting for something. The alien sensors couldn't understand why the humans weren't afraid. Any reasonable species would have jumped to hyperspace by now. Hours passed. The Armada entered the outer edge of the Kepler 442 system. Still, the human ship waited. The alien commander started to feel nervous, though they couldn't say why. There was something about the way the humans just sat there that made them uncomfortable. "Admiral," the sensor operator called out again. "The human ship is powering up its engines." Finally, thought Vextar. They were going to run, but the Defiant didn't run. Instead, it started moving toward the Armada. One ship flying directly at 800 alien warships. It made no sense. "Are they insane?" Thrall asked. Old Commander Yex shook his head. "I told you. Humans don't think like us. They don't calculate odds the same way. Sometimes they fight when they should run. Sometimes they win when they should lose." "Impossible," Vextar said. But he was starting to feel a cold fear in his stomach. The bridge crew watched as the single human ship approached their massive fleet. It wasn't firing weapons, it wasn't transmitting any messages, it was just flying straight toward them like it had a plan. "What are they doing?" whispered Zixra. Nobody had an answer. The humans had to know they couldn't win. One ship against 800 was not a battle, it was suicide. But they kept coming anyway. Some of the alien ships in the fleet started to spread out just in case. Others powered up their weapons, though they weren't sure what they were afraid of. The Cricks remembered old warnings about human unpredictability. The Luminari flickered with growing concern. "Maybe we should destroy them now," suggested Thrall, "before they get closer." Vextar considered this. It would be easy. A single shot from any of their large warships would turn the human vessel into space dust. But something held him back. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the growing fear that he didn't understand what was happening. The Defiant continued its approach. It was still hours away, but it never changed course. Whatever the humans were planning, they were committed to it. As the alien fleet watched the lone human ship, some commanders began to remember old stories. Tales of human ships that had fought impossible battles. Stories of humans who refused to give up even when they were dying. Legends of human crews who had turned certain defeat into surprising victory through methods that no other species understood. "Admiral," Yex said quietly, "maybe we should consider withdrawing." "Withdrawing?" Vexitar's voice rose in pitch. "From one ship?" "Think about it," Yex continued. "Why aren't they running? What do they know that we don't? Humans might be primitive, but they're not stupid. If they're staying to fight, they must have a reason." Vextar looked around his bridge. He could see the doubt growing in his officer's eyes. One human ship was causing his entire armada to question itself. It was ridiculous. But the feeling of wrongness continued to grow. The Defiant flew closer through the darkness, and with each passing minute, the alien fleet became more nervous. They had come here to claim an easy victory against a weak enemy. But now they were starting to wonder if they understood humans at all. Something was very wrong, and none of them knew what it was. The alien armada continued its approach toward the Kepler 442 system. But the mood on every bridge had changed. What started as confident excitement was now becoming nervous worry. The single human ship, the Defiant, kept flying directly toward them without any sign of fear or retreat. Admiral Vextar paced on his bridge, his three eyes constantly checking the tactical displays. The human ship was still 2 hours away, but something felt very wrong. His experienced commanders were whispering among themselves, and he didn't like what he was hearing. "Admiral," called the communications officer, a tall alien with gray skin and large black eyes. "The human ship is transmitting." "Finally," Vextar said. "Put it through, let's hear their surrender." But what came through the speakers was not a surrender. Instead, music began playing. Strange, alien music that was clearly human in origin. It had drums and guitars and voices singing in the human language called English. The melody was strong and aggressive like a war song. "What is this?" Thrall asked, his rocky face showing confusion. The music continued for several minutes. It was followed by another song, then another. Each one seemed to be about fighting and never giving up. The alien crews listened with growing unease. Why were the humans playing music instead of asking for mercy? Then a human voice cut through the music. It was calm and professional, speaking in perfect galactic common language. "This is Captain Zara Chen of the United Earth ship Defiant. I know you can hear me." The bridge fell silent. Captain Chen's voice was steady and showed no fear at all. "I want to talk to your commanders," she continued. "Not to surrender, but to give you information that might save your lives." Vextar gestured for his communications officer to open a channel. "This is Admiral Vextar of the Zeltharian Empire. You are greatly outnumbered, human. Surrender now and you will be treated fairly." Captain Chen laughed, and the sound made several aliens on the bridge shiver with discomfort. "Admiral Vextar, commanding the flagship Eternal Glory. Your ship is 2.3 kilometers long, armed with plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes. Your shields are rated for Class 7 energy attacks." Vextar's three eyes widened in shock. How did she know those details? "Commander Thrall," Captain Chen continued, "your ship Mountain's Rage has armor plating from the Vega system, very tough, but weak against resonance weapons. Commander Zixra, your vessel Swift Hunter is fast but has limited fuel for extended fighting." The alien commanders looked at each other in growing alarm. The human was naming their ships and describing their capabilities with perfect accuracy. "This information should have been classified. How do you know this?" Vextar demanded. We've been watching you for a long time, Captain Chen replied. We know about the treaty you signed 6 months ago. We know about your supply problems. We know about the arguments between your species and why some of your ships are already thinking about leaving. This was impossible. The humans were primitive. They had no intelligence network that could penetrate alien space. But somehow this human captain knew details that only the highest commanders should know. You're bluffing, Vextar said, but his voice didn't sound convinced. Am I? Commander Yex, your ship has engine problems that your mechanics can't fix. You've been hiding this from Admiral Vextar because you don't want to look weak. The Luminari fleet is low on energy crystals because of the trade dispute with the Andorians. The Crick ships are carrying less ammunition than normal because they expected this to be an easy fight. Each statement hit like a physical blow. These were secrets that the alien commanders hadn't shared with each other. How could one human know so much? Captain Chen wasn't finished. You have 837 ships, but your alliance is fragile. The Cricks don't trust the Luminary because of what happened at the Battle of Proxima. The Zeltharians are using this mission to expand their territory, and the other species know it. Half your fleet will abandon you if this fight goes badly. The communications channels began buzzing with worried conversations between ships. The human was right about too many things. The alliance was built on necessity, not friendship. Old rivalries and suspicions were always just under the surface. Enough, Vextar shouted. You have one ship, we have hundreds. Numbers don't always matter, Admiral, Captain Chen said calmly. Ask the Cricks about the Battle of Wolf 359. Ask them what happened when they fought 12 human ships with a fleet of 200. Commander Zixra made a chittering sound of fear. She remembered that battle. The humans had somehow turned the Cricks fleet against itself through psychological tricks and confusion. 200 Cricks ships had destroyed each other while the humans barely fired a shot. Ask the Luminari about the siege of Tau Ceti, Captain Chen continued. Ask them how humans learned to fight beings of pure energy by creating weapons that shouldn't be possible. The Luminari on various ships began flickering rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. They remembered. The humans had somehow created weapons that could hurt energy beings by studying captured Luminary technology and combining it with their own strange ideas. You see, Captain Chen explained, humans don't fight the way you expect. We don't follow the normal rules of warfare. We study our enemies for years before we fight them. We learn your weaknesses, your fears, your cultural blind spots. Then, we use all of it against you. The alien fleet was starting to slow down. Some ships were drifting out of formation as their crews became nervous. The perfect military formation was becoming ragged and uncertain. Here's what I'm offering, Captain Chen said. You have 30 minutes to turn around and leave this system. If you do, we'll let you go without a fight. If you don't, you'll discover what happens when humans have time to prepare. This is ridiculous, Vextar protested. You have one ship. Do I? Captain Chen asked. Are you sure about that? Have your sensors done a complete scan of the system? Have you checked for stealth signatures? Have you looked for ships hiding in asteroid fields or behind moons? The alien commanders began ordering their sensor operators to run deeper scans. The results were confusing. There were strange readings throughout the system, but nothing clearly identified as human ships. Maybe there were more vessels hidden, or maybe the humans were just making them paranoid. 30 minutes, Captain Chen repeated. After that, you'll understand why humans are called the most dangerous species in the galaxy, not because we're the strongest or the fastest or the smartest, but because we're the ones who turn your own strengths against you. The transmission ended, leaving the alien fleet in uncomfortable silence. 800 ships faced one human vessel, but somehow the humans had made them doubt everything they thought they knew about this battle. The psychological warfare had begun, and the aliens were already losing. The 30 minutes passed like hours for the alien armada. Every commander watched their clocks counting down to Captain Chen's deadline. Some wanted to attack immediately, others suggested retreating. The perfect unity of the fleet was cracking. Under the pressure of one human's words, Admiral Vextar stood rigid on his bridge, trying to maintain control over his fractured alliance. Around him, his officers monitored the sensors and watched the lone human ship that continued flying toward them. The Defiant hadn't changed course or speed. It just kept coming, like it had all the time in the world. 5 minutes remaining, announced the communications officer. Admiral, Commander Yex said quietly. Perhaps we should consider the humans' offer. There's something wrong here. I can feel it. We are not running from one ship, Vextar declared, but his voice cracked, slightly. The doubt was eating at him too. On screens throughout the fleet, alien crews watched the countdown. Some ships had already moved out of tight formation, their captains making excuses about engine problems or navigation adjustments. The truth was that everyone was getting nervous and no one wanted to be in the front line when whatever the humans had planned finally happened. 2 minutes, the communications officer announced. The Defiant was now close enough that they could see it, clearly on visual displays. It was a sleek ship, built for speed and combat, but it was still just one vessel against hundreds. The aliens could see weapon ports and sensor arrays, all standard human technology. Nothing that should threaten a massive fleet. 1 minute remaining. Vextar made his decision. All ships prepare to fire. The moment their deadline passes, we destroy that ship. Across the fleet, hundreds of weapons systems powered up. Plasma cannons charged, missile tubes loaded, and energy weapons focused on the single human target. Whatever game Captain Chen was playing, it was about to end. Time, the communications officer announced. All ships fire, Vextar commanded. Hundreds of weapons fired at once. The space around the Defiant lit up like a small sun as energy beams, missiles, and plasma bolts converged on the human ship. The barrage was enough to destroy a small moon. But when the light faded, the Defiant was gone. What happened? Vextar demanded. Where is it? Sensors show no debris, reported the tactical officer. The ship just vanished. Impossible. Run the scan again. The sensors swept the area again and again, but there was no trace of the human ship. No wreckage, no energy signature, nothing. It was as if the Defiant had never existed. Then Captain Chen's voice came through their communications again, but this time, it seemed to be coming from directly above them. Admiral Vextar, you just fired on a hologram. Every alien on every bridge looked up at their ceiling displays. There, floating directly above the flagship Eternal Glory, was the real Defiant. The human ship had somehow appeared in the middle of their formation without being detected. Impossible, Vextar whispered. Our sensors would have detected you. Human stealth technology, Captain Chen explained. We've been studying your sensor systems for years. We learned how to become invisible to them. That hologram was just to keep you looking in the wrong direction. The alien fleet was in chaos. Captains were screaming orders, trying to turn their ships to target the human vessel that had somehow appeared among them. But the Defiant wasn't attacking the flagship. Instead, it was broadcasting new information. Here's what you need to know, Captain Chen announced. You didn't walk into a battle. You walked into a trap. This entire system has been prepared for your arrival. New contacts began appearing on alien sensors throughout the Kepler 442 system. Behind asteroids, near moons, hidden in the shadow of planets, dozens of signatures were powering up. They had been there all along, waiting in complete silence until this moment. 37 automated defense platforms, Captain Chen listed. 15 hunter-killer drone squadrons. 23 mining ships converted to missile carriers. 8 attack submarines hiding in the gas giant's atmosphere. And those are just the ones we're letting you see now. The alien commanders stared at their tactical displays in horror. Red dots were appearing everywhere, surrounding their fleet. Each one represented a threat they hadn't detected until now. How long have you been planning this? Vextar asked, his voice barely a whisper. Ever since we learned you were forming an alliance, Captain Chen replied. We've had human intelligence agents watching your meetings for months. We knew you would come here. We knew how you would approach. We even knew which ships would be in which formations because your species are predictable in how you organize your fleets. The truth hit the aliens like a physical blow. The humans hadn't been caught by surprise. They had been expecting this attack. Everything had been prepared in advance. You see, Admiral, humans learned something important during our early wars. Captain Chen continued. We learned that the best way to win a fight is to make sure it happens on your terms, in the place you choose when you're ready for it. More human vessels began decloaking throughout the system. Not just small drones and defense platforms, but full-sized warships. They had been hidden using advanced stealth technology that the aliens couldn't detect. The trap was far bigger than anyone had imagined. This is the human way of war, Captain Chen explained. We don't fight fair fights. We don't meet you in open space where your numbers give you an advantage. We study you, we prepare, and then we fight you when and where we choose. The alien fleet was completely surrounded. Hundreds of human weapons were now targeting them from every direction. What had seemed like an easy conquest had become a carefully planned ambush. You have 2 choices, Captain Chen announced. You can surrender now and we'll escort you out of our space. Or you can fight, and learn why humans are the most feared warriors in this part of the galaxy. Admiral Vextar looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at him, waiting for orders. But what orders could he give? They had sailed confidently into what they thought was a trap for the humans. Instead, they had become the trapped ones. How did you know we would come here? Vextar asked desperately. Because we understand you better than you understand us, Captain Chen replied. We knew your species needed these resources. We knew you would form an alliance to get them. We knew you would underestimate us, because we're newer to space than you are. And we knew you would think that superior numbers would guarantee victory. The human captain paused, letting her words sink in. What you didn't know is that humans have been preparing for this war longer than you've been planning it. We've been ready for you since the day we learned you existed. The trap was complete. The alien armada that had come to conquer human space was now surrounded, outnumbered and completely at the mercy of the species they had considered primitive. The hunters had become the hunted, and they were just beginning to understand what that meant. The trap was sprung, but Captain Chen wasn't finished. The human ships that had revealed themselves began moving with precision that showed months of planning. They didn't attack randomly or with overwhelming force. Instead, they struck with surgical accuracy at specific targets. Admiral Vextar watched in horror as the first wave of human attacks hit his fleet. But the humans weren't trying to destroy every ship. They were targeting the command vessels, the communications arrays, and the ships that held the alliance together. They're hitting our coordination ships, Commander Zixra reported, her insect voice high with panic. The Unity Bridge is gone. The Alliance hope is crippled. These weren't the biggest or most powerful ships in the Armada, but they were the ones that allowed different alien species to communicate and coordinate with each other. Without them, the massive fleet would lose its ability to work together. All ships maintain formation, Vextar ordered, but even as he spoke, he could see it wasn't working. The human attacks came from impossible angles. Ships that should have been light years away appeared suddenly, fired precisely at their targets and vanished again before the aliens could respond. It was like fighting ghosts. Admiral, the tactical officer reported, we're losing communications with the outer formations. The humans are jamming our signals and destroying our relay stations. Vextar watched his beautiful, coordinated armada begin to fall apart. Without proper communication, each species was starting to act independently. The Krix ships moved into defensive positions. The Luminari began forming their own battle groups. The rock-like aliens pulled their vessels back from the front lines. This is what they planned, Commander Yek said grimly. They're not trying to destroy us. They're trying to break us apart. He was right. The humans could have used massive weapons to cause huge casualties, but instead, they were using precise strikes to cut the alien fleet into pieces. They were turning one large organized threat into dozens of smaller, confused groups. Contact the Krix commanders, Vextar ordered. Tell them to— Sir, the Krix aren't responding, the communications officer interrupted. They're saying the humans are targeting them specifically because of something about Wolf 359. Admiral Vexitar cursed in his native language. The humans had planted seeds of doubt and fear, and now those seeds were growing into full panic. The Baitu Krix remembered their old defeat and were convinced they were being singled out for revenge. Worse, the Krix were right to be worried. The human ships were using different tactics against each alien species. Against the Krix, they used swarm attacks that confused the insects' collective thinking. Against the Luminari, they used weapons that disrupted energy fields. Against each species, the humans fought in the way that would cause maximum psychological damage. Admiral, Commander Thrall's voice came through the communications. The Luminari are breaking formation. They're saying we led them into a trap. We didn't know, Vexitar protested, but even he could hear how weak that sounded. The truth was that the Alliance had always been fragile. Different species with different cultures, different fighting styles, and different goals had been held together only by their shared greed for the resources of Kepler 442. Now that the mission was going badly, all the old suspicions were coming back. The rock people are pulling back, Zixra reported. They're saying this was a Zeltharian trick to get other species killed while we take the system for ourselves. That's not true, Vextar shouted, but more ships were already leaving formation. The humans had studied the psychology of each alien species and the tensions between them. They knew exactly how to make the Alliance collapse. Every attack was calculated not just to cause damage, but to increase suspicion and fear. A wing of human fighters suddenly appeared near a group of Krix ships, fired a few shots, then vanished. But their shots didn't hit the Krix vessels. Instead, they hit Luminari ships that were nearby, making it look like the Krix had fired on their own allies. The Luminari think we're shooting at them, one of the Krix commanders transmitted in panic. We didn't fire those shots, the Krix fleet leader protested. But the Luminari didn't believe them. Energy beings began attacking insect ships, convinced they were being betrayed. The Krix fired back in self-defense. Within minutes, 2 entire species were fighting each other instead of the humans. Stop shooting each other, Vextar ordered, but his commands were lost in the chaos. More human ships appeared throughout the battlefield, always in small groups, always attacking unexpected targets. They would hit a supply ship here, a communications array there, an engine room somewhere else. Each attack was small, but together they were destroying the Armada's ability to fight as one force. Admiral, Commander Yex said urgently, we need to retreat. This is exactly what the humans want. They're turning us against each other. We can't retreat, Vextar replied. We have 800 ships. We had 800 ships, Yex corrected. Now we have 800 separate ships, all acting independently, all scared and confused. He was right. The Great Armada was becoming a mob. Some ships were trying to fight the humans. Others were shooting at their former allies. Many were already turning around and heading for the edge of the system, abandoning the mission entirely. Look at the tactical display, Yex continued. The humans have maybe 50 ships total, but they're fighting us like we're 50 different enemies, not one big fleet. And it's working. Captain Chen's voice came through their communications again. Calm and professional as ever, Admiral Vexitar, you now understand the human way of war. We don't fight your strengths. We attack your weaknesses. Your strength was your numbers and your alliance. Your weakness was the mistrust between your species. The battle raged around them, but it wasn't really a battle anymore. It was chaos. Ships fired in all directions, not sure who was friend and who was enemy. The perfect military formation had become a confused mess of frightened vessels shooting at shadows. We studied your cultures for years, Captain Chen continued. We knew the Krix would panic if they thought they were being targeted for revenge. We knew the Luminary would assume betrayal if they took friendly fire. We knew your alliance would collapse if the mission went badly. More alien ships were fleeing every minute. The mighty Armada that had entered the system with such confidence was falling apart like a house of cards in a storm. This is how humans fight wars, Admiral. We make you defeat yourselves. Admiral Vextar looked around his bridge at his panicked officers, then at his tactical display showing the dissolution of his great fleet. The humans had been right about everything. The alliance was breaking apart, his ships were fighting each other, and the mission was a complete failure. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Vextar gave the order he never thought he would give. All Zeltharian ships retreat to jump coordinates were leaving the system. The great alien armada was in full retreat, and the humans hadn't even used their main weapons yet. 3 hours after the battle began, the Kepler 442 system was quiet again. Scattered debris floated in space where the great alien armada had been, but most of it came from ships that had been destroyed by friendly fire rather than human weapons. The survivors were fleeing in all directions, their alliance shattered beyond repair. Captain Zara Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching the last alien ships disappear into hyperspace. Her crew was quiet, still processing what they had accomplished. They had faced down 800 enemy vessels and won without losing a single human ship. Captain, her first officer, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Park said, we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Vextar. Put it through, Chen ordered. The Zeltharian Admiral appeared on the main screen. His purple skin looked pale, and his 3 eyes showed exhaustion and defeat. Behind him, his bridge crew worked frantically to coordinate their retreat. Captain Chen, Vextar said, his voice heavy with resignation. I need to understand, how did you know we were coming? How did you prepare so thoroughly? Chen considered her answer carefully. The battle was over, but the real lesson was just beginning. Admiral, what you experienced today wasn't just a military defeat. It was a demonstration of human strategic thinking. We call it asymmetric xenological warfare. She gestured to her tactical display, which showed the positions where human forces had been hidden throughout the system. We've been preparing for this battle since the day we learned about your alliance, Chen explained. Our intelligence networks have been watching your species for decades. We study your military doctrines, your cultural psychology, your historical conflicts with each other. Vexitar's eyes widened. Decades. But we only started planning this mission months ago. That's the difference between human thinking and alien thinking, Chen replied. You plan for the wars you want to fight. We prepare for the wars we might have to fight. Every alien species that makes contact with humanity gets studied. Every military capability gets analyzed. Every cultural weakness gets catalogued. She paused, letting this sink in. We knew that eventually, someone would try to take our colonies by force. We didn't know who or when, but we knew it would happen. So we prepared for every possibility. On the screen, Admiral Vexitar looked like he was beginning to understand the scope of what had happened to his fleet. The stealth technology you used, he said. Where did it come from? From you, Chen replied simply. And from the Crix, and the Luminari, and 6 other species. Every time we make contact with a new alien race, we study their technology. We learn from it. We improve it. That stealth system uses principles from 8 different alien civilizations, combined with human engineering. This was perhaps the most shocking revelation of all. The humans hadn't just prepared for war. They had been learning from every alien species they met, taking the best parts of each civilization's technology and combining them into something new. We don't just fight wars, Chen continued. We study them. Every battle teaches us something new about our potential enemies. The Crix invasion of Wolf 359 taught us how to disrupt collective thinking. The Luminari raids on our mining stations taught us how to fight energy beings. Your own border skirmishes taught us about multi-species alliance psychology. Lieutenant Commander Park stepped forward. Captain, should I brief him on the full scope of the operation? Chen nodded. Admiral Vextar, what you saw today was a field test. This entire engagement was designed to test human theories about xenological warfare. We used your attack as an opportunity to see if our psychological analysis of different alien species was accurate. The Zeltharian Admiral's expression shifted from defeat to something approaching horror. You mean this was an experiment? A very important one, Chen confirmed. We needed to know if humans could successfully fight a large alien coalition using minimal resources. We needed to test whether our cultural studies would work in actual combat. And we needed to demonstrate to the galaxy that attacking human space is not profitable. She gestured to her crew, who were recording everything about the battle for future analysis. Every shot your ships fired was recorded. Every communication was analyzed. Every tactical decision was studied. We now understand exactly how your species react under pressure, how your alliances work, and how to defeat them if we meet them again. Admiral Vexitar was quiet for a long moment, clearly struggling with the implications of what he was hearing. But why tell me this? He finally asked. Why not keep it secret? Because the real purpose of this battle wasn't to destroy your fleet, Chen explained. It was to send a message to every alien civilization in this part of the galaxy. The message is simple. Humans don't fight the way you expect us to fight. She stood up, her expression serious but not hostile. We're not the strongest species in space, Admiral. We're not the fastest or the most advanced. But we are the most dangerous, because we learn from everyone we meet. We study every species, every culture, every military doctrine. And when someone threatens us, we use all of that knowledge against them. The implications were staggering. Every alien species that had ever made contact with humanity had unknowingly been teaching humans how to defeat them. Every cultural exchange, every trade agreement, every diplomatic meeting had been a learning opportunity for human strategists. This is how humans wage war, Chen continued. We turn your own strengths against you. We use your cultural blind spots. We exploit the tensions between your species. We make you defeat yourselves so we don't have to destroy you. Admiral Vextar finally understood the full scope of what had happened. His armada hadn't been defeated by superior numbers or better weapons. They had been defeated by superior knowledge and psychological warfare. What happens now? He asked quietly. Now you go home, Chen replied. You tell your leaders what happened here. You explain that humans are not the primitive species you thought we were. And you spread the word to every alien civilization. Attacking human space is not just dangerous, it's pointless. She leaned forward slightly. Because we will always be ready for you. We will always know more about you than you know about us. And we will always find a way to turn your own nature against you. The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Vextar alone with his thoughts as his ship limped toward home. Behind him, the human fleet was already disappearing back into stealth mode, vanishing as if they had never existed. In his final log entry, Admiral Vextar wrote words that would be studied by military academies across the galaxy for generations. We came to fight humans and discovered we were fighting ourselves. Their true weapon is not technology or numbers but understanding. They know us better than we know ourselves, and they use that knowledge with surgical precision. Any species that makes war against humanity should remember this. The most dangerous enemy is not the one who can destroy you, but the one who can make you destroy yourself. The Battle of Kepler 442 entered the history books not for its casualties, but for its demonstration of a new type of warfare. Humanity had shown the galaxy that they didn't need to be the strongest to be the most feared. They just needed to be the smartest. And in a universe full of different species with different weaknesses, being the smartest was often more than enough.